Hi, Chris Dahl here with QuiltingWeekly.com, part 2 of how to create your own binding. Part 1 was how to measure the quilt top accurately to determine how many strips of fabric you'll need to cut for your binding. This part of the video is on how to join all of those strips that you recently cut. The first thing I want to point out is when you join two pieces of fabric together, we do know that it goes right sides together. And most of the time when we're quilting or making our pieces, we tend to be making a straight seam across the edge of our fabric. In binding, I prefer to make a diagonal seam. I find it a little stronger and it's a little less noticeable on your quilt when you do a diagonal seam. Think about the quilt top when it's finished. It gets a lot of folding, creases, and things like that, and when you're putting a lot of stress on those seams on the outer edge of that quilt, if you do straight seams on your binding, those are probably going to give way first. So do a diagonal seam, less stress, and it hides in the binding much easier. So in order to do that, you need to lay your first piece of fabric down right side up. You lay your second piece of fabric down to create a 45-degree angle. If you're laying your fabric in the direction that I have it right now, you need to know that your diagonal seam is going to run from left to right. So if it's facing you, left to right. If I were to make my 45-degree angle this direction, you need to be sure you remember right to left. So if it's up, right to left. If it's down, it's going to be left to right. That's very important. I'm going to take my fabric now laid in my position the way I have it. If you have a nice small little quilting ruler like this, really any size ruler will work, but what you want to find is your diagonal line that runs from corner to corner. When I place that down along this edge of my fabric, and I will draw my line from corner to corner. My fabric's facing me, so it's left to right. Draw that line down, put in a pin, keep it from shifting, take it to your sewing machine, and then stitch on that diagonal line that you've just drawn. I've already done that on this particular set of fabric. So I've stitched along that pencil line. I then took my quilting ruler and trimmed off my triangles to 1/4 inch, eliminating some of that bulk. Some people actually save those cute little triangles that came off the corner here. Sew them together and you have a nice half square triangle for a very tiny quilt. I personally throw them away. I'm not that insane. But there are some who do like to make miniature quilts. Those would be perfect for them. So if you have a friend who does miniature quilts, save your triangles and send them to her. She'll be thrilled. The other tip I want to point out is when you press this seam, typically with quilting we press our seams to one side or the other. On the binding, to distribute the bulk a little more evenly, press your seams open. Thank you for watching. The next part of our segment will be how I press the binding in half accurately and quickly without burnt fingers. Then we're going to show you how to attach your binding to your quilt and how to make mitered corners and how I overlap my ends. Thank you for watching part 2 of how to create your own binding. For more helpful tips like this, visit QuiltingWeekly.com. Registration is free. You'll get email notifications of when new videos like this come out, as well as other helpful quilting tips and workshops. Thank you.